The definition of a luxury automobile has changed dramatically in the last couple decades. Manufacturers today are making their cars sportier, have more performance, and ultimately provide more power. But that could be a problem for buyers who want something that is sophisticated, refined, and comfortable. Our spotlight is on this 2019 Lincoln Nautilus Reserve all-wheel drive. It replaces the MKX that was released in 2016 to the 2018 model year, so it is a small facelift with a new name change. The grille that was a split wing before has been updated to a rectangular one with large Lincoln emblem in the center, very similar to what we saw on the Navigator and Continental. Our $55,550 base MSRP Nautilus has $12,350 worth of options, bringing it very much in line with the 2018 Cadillac XT5 we featured a little while ago. We're going to be going over absolutely everything you need to know if you're in the market for a Canadian-built mid-size luxury crossover. I'll let you in on a little secret. We're actually doing an episode of Test Drive Showdown with the Nautilus versus the 2019 Cadillac XT5. So if you're watching this episode as soon as it comes out, stay tuned. Probably later this week is when we're going to be publishing that showdown, but it makes sense for us to do it. Cadillac and Lincoln have been rivals since the beginning of the American automotive industry, so we want to be able to feature those two vehicles, especially now that crossovers really are the dominant vehicle. But let's take a minute to talk about this mid-size luxury crossover. It shares the same platform as the Ford Edge that we just featured. However, with $12,000 worth of options, there is a lot to go over. This has the $2,500 driver assistance package. It adds adaptive cruise control with stop and go and lane centering, adaptive steering, collision mitigation, distance alert and indication, dynamic brake support, evasive steer assist, and forward collision warning. A $500 Class 2 trailer towing package is on this. You have the connectors for the lighting as well as the tow hitch on the back. It's just a regular tow hitch. Cadillac, I think, does a better job hiding it, but this one you can see pretty easily from the back of the vehicle. You also have the $1,100 Nautilus technology package. It has the 360-degree camera with rear camera wash, active park assist, and front parking sensors. The rear parking sensors would come on this vehicle regardless. And because we're looking at the top-end Reserve trim, at least sold here in Canada, they do have a black label in the States. We don't have that here. You get the $5,500 Ultimate package. Adds dynamic LED Lincoln signature lighting with quartering lights, full LED multi-projector headlights, LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals, a 19-speaker Revel Ultima audio system, and these 21-inch premium painted aluminum rims. I really do like the way that these rims look, and I'm glad that they haven't replaced them with something else. So this is the way that it would come from the factory. There's also a $1,600 Ultra Comfort seat package, which adds massaging seats to the front and 22-way power adjustment for both front passengers. You also have an $800 interior protection package. We've actually removed those from this vehicle and put the regular floor mats back in, but it is important to note that it does add a small lip to the back trunk on the outside to protect the paint and bodywork if you're loading things in and out. So we've included that. The floor mats are in the garage. They are fitted to the vehicle and also have the Lincoln badging in the inside. I think they look pretty cool, and it's good if you're in the winter, but we're in summer mode, so I don't want to have those in. We want to have the car in summer mode. And that's the reason why we're filming this episode in the shade today. It is actually 9 o'clock in the morning here. I know that the grass is being cut by the neighbors next door. I don't have a choice because later today it's going to feel nearly like 40 degrees Celsius. So we got to film these cars in the morning or else I'll die. So let's talk about some of the other features with this vehicle. I mean, I personally like the look of it, especially the front end, way nicer than the original design that the MKX had and the outgoing design language that Lincoln was using. And I also applaud Lincoln for going back to names on the vehicles instead of the archaic, uninspired MK somethings that they had before. And that's one of the things, you know, when we take a look at Cadillac, they've got the XT4, the XT5, and the XT6. It makes sense. The bigger the number, the bigger the vehicle. And that is one of the drawbacks going with a naming system, unless you have a very storied history that dates back quite a while and people have become ingrained with those names. they might still be confused. Now the design language, like I said, on the front is really good. Back end, again, very similar to what we saw on the Continental. I really like the look of it. I think that this does look better than the Ford Edge, and I think it could be one of the strongest crossovers they have in their portfolio right now between Ford and Lincoln. I think it just has a good look to it. You have the rear camera system that has a washer nozzle built in. That's great in the winter if it gets clogged up. You have backup camera, backup sensors, 360 camera, pretty much everything that you would need on a vehicle like this. One of the features that I really like are the power folding mirrors. Unlike the Cadillacs where you have to hold the button on your key fob to lock it, this will lock automatically when you lock the car. But what I really like is when the driver gets in the car and opens the door, the mirrors stay closed. It's not until that door is closed that they will open up. It is a very small little feature, which is a nice touch on a vehicle like this. But let's hop in the inside now. We'll talk about the features in there, and then we'll take this on a road test to go over everything else you need to know about the 2019 Lincoln Nautilus. Before you get too upset that the interior here is pretty similar to the Ford Edge, take a look at my first car, 1983 Ford LTD Crown Victoria, and then compare it to a 1980s Lincoln Town Car. The interiors are pretty much the same, so it's not new for Lincoln. But what I like about it is even though pretty much all the same features are available on this and the Ford Edge, this takes it to a luxury level. You do get a little bit more refinement in this vehicle, and it definitely shows. Here we have the cappuccino interior leather with the 22-way adjustment seats with power headrests, which we don't often find from American luxury manufacturers, ventilated and heated front seats, and the massaging front seats as well. Front seats also have power thigh extenders, which is a great thing to have, especially if you want to have a little bit more comfort on this vehicle. There are 3 driver memory options and nothing on the passenger side. I think it would have been nice if the passenger had memory options as well, especially considering the price. And Lincoln is trying to push themselves above the Cadillac brand, so maybe something like that would have definitely helped. Now that will be the last time I mention Cadillac in the interior here. I really want to save that for our showdown. That's the whole reason why we've booked those 2 cars. So take a look at our showdown when it's available, and you'll see everything that's different between these 2 vehicles. I am starting to see a lot of Nautiluses on the road. Not nearly as many as XT5s, but they probably will get there, especially now that this has a much more appealing look to it over the Cadillac's slightly more sport-oriented design. You have dual zone automatic climate control. There are vents in the back for the rear passengers, but there is no third zone. Rear passengers do have heated outboard seats. You have Ford's Sync 3 infotainment system that we've talked about before. It works very well. You have the 19-speaker Revel Ultima audio system. Sounds phenomenal, especially when you compare it to the competition. Audio quality is really good on this car. The infotainment system has Sirius XM radio, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Wi-Fi. There is no HUD on this vehicle, so all the information you need will be on the 12.3-inch display. It works really well. It's very simple. There isn't a ton of information in there, and you can configure it quite well, but you get what you really need out of it. On top of that, you have a panoramic sunroof up top, ambient lighting with a number of different color choices, HomeLink, a leather-wrapped dashboard. Pretty much throughout, everything is leather there, and the door cards very nice, and a wood trim throughout the center and door cards. Overall, I'd say this is really well kitted on the inside. I think that it does have more over the Ford Edge, even though feature-wise they are pretty similar. This just takes it to a slightly higher level, which is why it's more money up in that $70,000 price point. Before we take this vehicle on its road test, I just want to talk about the engine. Our colleagues in Toronto got the 2.7-liter twin-turbo engine, produces 335 horsepower, 380 pound-feet of torque, which definitely has a lot more than some of the competition. But this one is the 2-liter turbo inline-4. It has an 8-speed automatic transmission, 250 horsepower, and 275 pound-feet of torque. So it is lower than some of the competition out there. But if you think about the way that Lincoln is going with their vehicles, they're not meant to be sporty, they're not meant to be fast. They want to create a car that is comfortable and relaxing for drivers, whether you're being driven or driving the vehicle. And yes, luxury has always been designed to have more power. The idea is you have the power even though you don't necessarily need it. Excess is luxury. So with this, you'll have better fuel economy, and ultimately you don't need more than 250 horsepower. But since we haven't driven the 2.7 twin turbo in the Nautilus, I can't really tell how it is in comparison to that. So we'll talk about how this vehicle performs on the road and everything else you need to know about the 2019 Lincoln Nautilus Reserve. You know, I find it interesting when I watch or see other content about Lincoln's products that some people complain like it's not sporty, it doesn't have a very inspired drive and things like that. But in order to understand this car and what Lincoln does, you really have to understand what Lincoln represents. And I'm going to go back again to the 80s because that was, for me, the golden era of what I'll always appreciate when it comes to the Ford Motor Company. The 1980s Lincoln Town Car, and for the 80 model year was the Continental, and then it became the Town Car after that, had a 160 horsepower V8 engine. It was nothing, it was super slow. But the point wasn't to go fast, it was meant to be comfortable. And I know that I mentioned that XS is luxury, but for Lincoln, it's never really been about that. It's about having a comfortable drive experience and being very relaxed as you're doing it. And that's something that this car does very well. It's not top of the end luxury like we can see on something like a BMW X5, but for what you're paying for, I'm very content. First of all, the drive and handling is very, very soft, and that's what you want out of a luxury car. It's not sporty, it's not performance oriented, it really is nice and smooth. And that's what you want with a vehicle like this. And yes, you can go up to the 2.7 liter twin turbo V6. You'll have quite a bit more power than you have on this. And that's the great thing, you have the option for it. But with the 2-liter engine, you're gonna be saving a little bit more on fuel, and it still does more than what you need for a daily driver. When you're getting onto the highway, you can give it a little bit more acceleration. If you really want to, you can put it into sport mode and have a little bit more power. But just like the Continental that had 400 horsepower and it didn't really feel like it, same for this. It doesn't feel like it has all that much power. But if you're getting up onto the highway and things, you can put it into sport mode, have a little bit of extra oomph if you need it. But I've kept this car in drive, which is in comfort mode essentially. There's only 2 drive modes. And unlike some of the other luxury vehicles that you can have, a sport mode and a comfort mode and a dynamic mode and an eco mode, you're pretty much looking at what you get when it comes to this. And yeah, you can see it's starting to rain here now. It's not ideal for what we're doing for filming, but it's pretty quiet. I mean, you don't hear a ton of the rain. Wiper blades are insanely quiet, and they are heated, so if it is cold out, it's the middle of winter, the heated wiper blade area will be great to keep some of the ice off of the vehicle. But for the most part, I mean, this car is so quiet, so comfortable on the road. It really makes me understand what Lincoln is trying to do with their vehicles, and they really are pushing that, especially with what they're talking about with the 2020 Corsair and the 2020 Aviator. They aren't meant to be performance cars, they're not meant to be sporty, they are meant for complete, absolute comfort, and that is what you get with this, and I'm happy. It's so strange because I really do like the performance stuff. I love driving BMWs and Mercedes because I want to have a little bit of power, a little bit of performance, but when I get into this, I get a whole different experience, and I really love it. It's so smooth on the road, and when you come to a stop, just everything kind of goes away. Plus, you can turn on the massaging seats. I always kind of forget to turn those on, but it's nice to have the massaging seat on here. You have ventilated seats, heated seats. Quite a lot of what Lincoln has put into this vehicle makes it quite special. And yeah, it is pretty similar to the Ford Edge that we feature, but when you get behind the wheel, you can see that it isn't just a rebranded Ford Edge. They have taken a lot of time and care to make this car very nice on the inside. And one of the major concerns I had when I got into the car was just how high I'm sitting. This is as low as the seat goes. So again, if you're a taller person, you might have trouble, but because of it, the seating position is so good. Your legs are at such a great angle that it is comfortable, and I can see why this is going to become a very popular seller. We've heard from a number of people already on social media that they've purchased 2019 Nautiluses. Like, it helps having that nice front end on it, much better than the previous sort of, not generation, but pre-facelift version of the MKX. This looks like a very nice car, and overall you're going to get a lot of comfort out of it compared to a lot of the competition out there. That's what you're going to notice. It isn't just a regular old crossover. I mean, they have taken their time to make this something special. And if you are looking for luxury, not performance, this is the way to go.
Fuel economy testing comes first, as is tradition here on Test Drive. The Nautilus achieved 7.8 liters per 100 kilometers, or 30 US miles per gallon, on our 100 kilometer test loop. By comparison, the 2019 Cadillac XT5 did 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers, the BMW X5 xDrive 50i did 11.8 liters per 100 kilometers, and the Volvo XC90 T6 did 8.9 liters per 100 kilometers. Our 984 kilometer week with the Lincoln came in at 10.4 liters per 100 kilometers, or 22.5 mpg, but you'll have to watch our showdown versus the Cadillac XT5 to see how our testing compared directly with it. On to the likes and dislikes. We want to make sure that the Lincoln Motor Company knows that we love their decision to drop the silly MK somethings from their lineup, so the name change is on the top of our like list, followed by the strong exterior design, excellent seating comfort, overall interior noise management, and the sublime 19-speaker Revel Ultima audio system. But Lincoln can improve just like any other brand. We noticed fit and finish issues with the Nautilus, the same complaint we had several months ago about the 2019 Continental. For example, the A-pillar trim was warped on both sides, and the dashboard was loose on the driver's side near the windshield. We also noticed a large panel gap between the hood and the front bumper lip, and the hood itself wasn't leveled properly with the fenders. The lack of Lincoln's excellent color head-up display was also a miss, since the Cadillac XT5 offers one, and the rear seats also miss out on a third climate zone, again something offered on pretty much every mid-size luxury crossover. Small things, but easy enough to address in order to help keep Lincoln competitive now that the rest of their formula is starting to vibe. But how does this mid-size luxury crossover assembled in Oakville, Ontario compare to the competition? You'll have to stay tuned for our episode of Test Drive Showdown to find out.